Back on the SportsMax zone, we begin with netball and continuing on our build-up with Netball America's World Cup qualifying tournament set for October the 16th to the 22nd at the National Indoor Sports Centre in Kingston, Jamaica. SportsMax will have live coverage with 9 teams set to play 36 matches in the battle for 2 places to the 2023 World Cup in South Africa. That will be next summer. Now, by virtue of their number 3 world rank, Jamaica have already qualified for those World Cup action next summer. We are pleased to be joined by coach of the Bayesian Gems, Margaret Cutting, and Damisha Croney, also rejoining the Barbados setup. We welcome these ladies to the SportsMax zone. We heard yesterday from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines camp. We heard from the TNT camp as well. Damisha, let me start with you because I gather that you were off for a while and you're now back into competitive netball. Can you talk briefly about your break and how ready are you for this tournament? Yes?
Yes, well, I would have last played international netball in 2019 at the last World Championships. COVID was the initial break, and then I just came back from maternity leave with my son. So coming back was a little bit tough, but it feels good. It feels really good to be back.
Okay, so you're about to bring off a Shelley Ann Fraser Price or a... Well, I was about to say Serena Williams, but she hasn't won since her baby, so let me not go there. How fit and ready are you?
I feel I'm mentally fit, definitely mentally fit. I would like to be a little bit more physically fit, but I feel as though I've come a very long way and I am prepared and ready for the task at hand.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have looked at the Commonwealth Games and the Barbados losing all of their matches at the competitive Commonwealth Games. What were your thoughts on the Barbados performance in Birmingham, and how might the team improve in Kingston?
My thoughts, I know that we would have had some persons who would not have been exposed to that level. And the break in international netball, and not only international netball, our local netball, we were struggling a little while with our restrictions in terms of being able to play sports in general. That would have had an impact. But in everything, there's a silver lining. I feel as though the performance, although it was disappointing, it was definitely a learning experience for us. And it really shows us that, we really have to redeem ourselves. We have to get back out there. And I think that we're heading in the right direction right now.
Okay, Coach Cutting, can we get some comments from you now? Margaret Yvette Cutting? Cutting, is that your middle name, Margaret?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Good evening.
Happy to have you on the SportsMax zone. Your thoughts your thoughts on where the team is now at the end of September compared to the summer when you had some tough results at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham.
Oh yes, we had some tough results at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. We have learned from our mistakes at the games. On return, more emphasis was placed on fitness, nutrition, injury prevention, game tactics, and strategy.
And you are improved in those areas now, you're saying?
Well, yes, we work on improving our fitness, specifically improve our ability to maintain ball possession and our transition.
And what level of readiness would you say the team is at now? Because you still have a couple of weeks before the tournament. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your readiness at the moment for these World Cup qualifiers? Yeah, I think we're struggling with Coach Cutting's audio at the moment, George. Can we get Damisha in to talk about the team's preparation and how things are going? As I'm sure you are happy to return to international competition following your maternity break. But the Barbadians here are ranked 2, or the number 2 seeds for the tournament, because of all the teams competing, only Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica are ranked ahead of you. I say 2 based on the number of teams that are battling for 2 spots. So you are in a prime position to qualify based on your ranking. I know you wouldn't want to, relax on that thought though, as you go into this tournament.
Definitely, we don't want to underestimate any players. We're all here to have an even playing ground and opportunity to qualify for the Netball World Cup. We don't really have many opportunities where we get to play each other often. So there are some teams that we don't know that well. So we want to go in with the mindset that we're basically all on the same level. There's no teams that are below us. No one even is above us. We want to go in just to master one quarter at a time to get those games over, because the goal for all of the teams is to qualify, and we just have to go in with the mindset that we are basically in the battlefield.
Yeah, we know that the COVID-19 pandemic had set back a lot of Caribbean countries because in most jurisdictions, the sporting administrators did not allow formal competition. So during that period, there was a significant lull. But 2022 saw the resuscitation of a lot of sport being played. I know Barbados contested the OECS tournament in Dominica back in February. And you also had a series against St. Vincent and the Grenadines, didn't you, during the build-up to the Commonwealth Games?
Commonwealth Games,
yes. Yeah. So how much do you think Barbados would have benefited from those 2 tournaments or those 2 exercises?
There were definitely gains, but, a time period has passed since the OECS tournament, and I would imagine just as we would have improved, those teams would have also been putting in some additional work. And if we're being very honest, the teams that have not yet qualified, have never qualified for a world tournament, they have nothing to lose. So I know that they'll be gunning, especially for Trinidad and Barbados. As you said, based on ranking, we are the targets. So it will be very interesting.
All right, Damisha, I remember while I was living in Barbados, I got into some discussions from time to time about the level of netball in the country, and I had some good friends in my office who I would tease them about Jamaica's netball being way ahead of Barbados, only to see one under-16 tournament, I think it was sometime in the early 2000s, where Barbados actually beat Jamaica and won the under-16 title. And I almost couldn't get to the office on that day because I knew I was in for a tough one. I say that to say that there was a period, maybe 12, 13 years ago, when there were Barbadian teenagers who were setting themselves up for being really, really strong and making a mark in international netball. Can you speak to that and maybe a comment on where do you think the state of netball is in the country at the moment?
Well, do you want better? I would go even more recent when we defeated Jamaica in Jamaica.
Yes.
And that was our senior team. My comment on that is lack of consistency. We have challenges maintaining or keeping those players for an extensive period of time. We lose players to a variety of sports, and we lose players to life because, unfortunately, netball does not pay us. We still have to go to work. We still have to support our families and stuff. So it's a lot of sacrifices that some persons just cannot sustain both of them. It's a very difficult decision to make, but bills have to be paid. But in terms of the skill set has always been there. The talent definitely is there. It's just the balancing of the two and having to prioritize. And we don't want to say be selfish, but having to prioritize yourself and your family as opposed to your passion for wanting to represent the country. So it's a really tough decision, and it will always continue to impact our players and our country's netball as a whole until something is done about it in terms of financing or feeding into the program.
All right, Coach Cutting, I think you're back with us. Can you hear us, and can you talk a bit so that we can ensure that you are coming through?
Yes, please. I'm hearing you.
Okay, I want to speak briefly on the experience versus youth in your squad. Your co-captains, Shawnette Azor Bruce and Latonya Blackman. Bruce is 40. Blackman turns 40 early in October. There will be some looking on to say, I know they are quality players, But is that a reflection of not enough younger players coming through to displace some of these players who usually at that age would have been retiring? Coach Cutting? I think she has frozen, George. Yeah, but it's an issue, and I guess it would be unfair to ask Damisha about that as one of their teammates. But while we were covering the Commonwealth Games and so on, and we often had discussions about the Barbados netball program, there was the distinct feeling that the succession, new players coming through to replace the older ones, it wasn't happening fast enough. And I know Blackman and Azor are very, very good players. I'm not disputing that. But it is not normal for 40-year-olds to be still playing international netball in today's world.
And to back up the point, if you look at the top teams from the Commonwealth Games and look at the top teams in the world, how many of them have a 40-year-old in it? And you'd be hard-pressed to find even one, even on the fringes of the team in. The fact is that Barbados, they are at I wouldn't say crossroads, but they're at a transition point. And the question is, the throughput to the senior team, is there the talent at the youth level to come and challenge these super veterans for a place in the team? You have to have renewal in the team. That said, every successful team in every field of endeavor needs to have a cornerstone built on the back of men and women athletes with experience, who've been there several times over, who have the know-how of match situations and how to manage tournament play. But with them, you need a constant stream of talented youngsters to keep the veterans on their toes and also to freshen up the team, give the team energy. If you looked at how Barbados played at the Commonwealth Games, there were games where they just looked, the intensity level was not there, and the intensity level was not there because they're not fit enough, and some of these players are not in a state where they can get the level of fitness required to hold their own against the best teams in the world. And that's just the plain truth.
Yes.
So to eliminate that, you need young, fresh players, but you do still need veterans in the team. Yeah. And it can't be that the profile of a team has to be young. The profile of a team has to be young. So the young profile, but with super veterans, that's the best mix.
Yeah, well, Damisha referenced it just now when she spoke about the players, not being paid to play netball, and they have 9-to-5 jobs, many of them.
So it's volunteer work.
Yes, so it is an issue which would impact on the level of fitness. Having said that, Damisha, if you're still there, while we covered the Commonwealth Games, we did feel that the level of fitness in the Barbados team was below what it needed to be. How much advancement Coach Cutting and the training specialists with the team would have done over this period to make Barbados a fitter team for Kingston than they were for Birmingham?
Well, when the team came back from the Commonwealth Games, there's basically not much of a time frame. So a lot of emphasis was placed on fitness, but in terms of match fitness, a lot of ball work, a lot of speed and agility was the emphasis for our fitness. Because the phase that we are currently in, we could not do much of the endurance or other stages of fitness that would have a positive impact. We're basically doing a crash course in fitness at this point in time. Sad to say, but the aim is to get 4 solid 15 quarters, and that's what we're working on right now.
Yeah, it is obvious that based on the quality of the teams and the ranking, Trinidad and Tobago will be your stiffest challenge. They are the only team, apart from the Jamaicans, who are ranked ahead of Barbados at the moment on the world ranking. Barbados at 14, Trinidad, I think, 11, and Jamaica at number 3. But of the other teams that your knowledge of Caribbean netball would give you, which are the other teams that you feel you'll have to be careful against?
I personally would not have seen a lot of the teams for a very long time, but I would say we would have played St. Vincent recently, so I would say St. Vincent. We have not seen Grenada for a while, but Grenada also poses a challenge for us, and St. Lucia. Those 3 teams are some teams that would have given us a challenge in the past, so those 3 teams will be 3 that I see that.
And what about the fact that the entire tournament, Damisha, will be televised on SportsMax, so your matches are going to be live, giving the sport of netball a lot of visibility, something that the sport has suffered with for decades.
Yeah, definitely, and we really appreciate it. So shout out to SportsMax. The netball fraternity needs that. We need to be out in the open. It will help a lot with our marketing and help a lot with exposing our skilled athletes, because netballers are extremely skilled athletes and our talent deserves to be showcased regionally and internationally. So I'm very happy to hear that the games will be streamed live on SportsMax.
Yeah, and the other thing is the target is to get to the World Netball Cup in South Africa next year summer, which is, you know, several months away, 9 months away. How important would it be for Barbados netball to qualify for these World Cup matches in South Africa?
To be honest, it's actually do or die. The sport right now is in Barbados is really hanging in our powers. We have so much power, and I feel as though the team understands that, because in not qualifying for World Cup, God knows when we'll get another opportunity to play at that level. We don't have many opportunities generally, and persons will not want to play a team that is ranked below a certain level. So it's really do or die for us. It is very important for us to go there and showcase our talent and really cement ourselves in the Caribbean, the Americas region.
Damisha, really great talking to you here on the SportsMax Zone. We wish you the best of luck in your continued preparation for the World Qualifiers in Kingston, October 16 to 22. We want to thank Margaret Cutting as well for joining us. She did have some video and audio issues, so we weren't able to interact with her as much as we wanted to. But again, Barbados, one of the 9 teams contesting the America's Netball World Cup qualifiers in Kingston, Jamaica, 16th of October to the 22nd. And the top 2 teams will be qualifying from there to the World Cup in Cape Town. Jamaica having already booked their spot as a number 3 ranked team in the world. Damisha, thanks for talking to us. And tell Coach Cutting when you go to training in a couple of minutes from now that we are sorry that we didn't get to talk to her more.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having us. Yeah. Have a great evening.
Okay, great. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.